know all the stuff that we're doing, go to washtenawdems.org, join. You need to join, get the newsletter. You need to join to have a real voice in the party. You know, to vote for resolutions, to vote for nominees, to vote for policies of all kinds. So go to WashtenawDems.org. How many, never mind, I'm not gonna ask. I won't ask how many are not members. But you need to join to be a member. And also to check on all the stuff that we're doing, check on the, you know, subscribe to the newsletter, get that every week. Party leadership and direction. Okay. On the website, WashtenawDems.org, there's a tab that's been, you know, a main nav. It's join. Up at there, there's a few at the top as usual, and it says join. And that, thanks to Sally DeLange, that has been newly, and the whole committee that's working on the endorsement process, that's been beefed up, and there's fantastic information there now. If you're there's endorsements, the endorsement process. If you're a candidate or supporting a candidate, go to that tab to find out how to get our party endorsement. I cannot tell you how many people complain, why did you endorse that person? Why did you endorse that person? You endorse them. Members endorse them. I don't endorse them. You know, the officers don't endorse them. Members endorse them. So you need to go through that calendar for endorsements and see what you need to do in order to have a voice in who we endorse, whose name and photo appears, or sometimes just name, in our voter guide, and then later on mivoter.org. All right, that's super important. Also important up there are two new tabs. One is for our March 22nd county convention. There's all kinds of information about the county convention, how it works, what you do to participate in the county convention. I have to exhale because right now I'm just breathing from the top of my throat. Hang on. You know how that gets, you know, you stop to, like, you know, exhale. Anyway, so I'll probably do it again. So there's it's a 322 county convention. There's a whole set of information there about how to participate. And if you want to get elected to one of the committees for the state party, there's the sign up link there to nominate yourself for that. And then there's also the April 19th convention in Detroit. It's the spring nominating convention where only members choose our candidates for Secretary of State, Attorney General, and a State Board of Education, and regents, or whatever, for not provost, regents for 3 state universities. So go there, WashtenawDems.org, under vote. All right. Also, what I want you to know, tomorrow, March 8th, Sunday, the Washtenaw Alliance will be meeting at the Unitarian Church out on Ann Arbor Saline Road, and we'll be going through this document that you'll also find online about how to participate as a guide, like a user's guide to the convention in April. That the first time I went there, it was like, okay, it was like a tidal wave of information. We're being your friendly user guide, you know, to figure out what on earth is coming at you on that day. And Curtis Hertel, the chair of the MDP, will be here later to help with that. I also want to say, well, Iran, and speaking of criminal, the entire bloc, all Democrats, Fetterman, but he doesn't count, right? You know, what a mistake. Anyway, we were on block against that exercise of power, which he does not possess. Some of us are a little more concerned about this outrageous suggestion that we add another $50 billion to the military budget to support this illegal action. Please go to mivoter.org. Everybody have that? mivoter.org. Put in your street address. Thank you very much. put in your street address, and you'll just like pop up everybody who represents you, everybody from the president who doesn't represent us, but anyway, from all the way from the federal level all the way down to your school board. So go in there and bookmark that so you can call our senators. It's right there, the way to contact them. Call our senators and say, please, no more funding for this war. No more funding for this war. If they need $50 billion, take it from the ICE budget. The money's there, take it from ICE. Seriously. No more money for this illegal war. So be sure. I mean, call every day. Call twice a day. It doesn't hurt to let them know how much we love them because of their courage and how absolutely determined we are about this. Okay. I know there's more. Hang on. I'm going to turn this over to Debbie in a minute. Annie and Kathy want to come up. We're going to take a moment to note the passing of two massive leaders, one national and one local. Jesse Jackson, as we all know, passed yesterday, and he was such an impressive person. My husband and I voted for him. We helped anyway. He helped win the primary in Illinois, presidential primary. But more locally and close to home, Melvin Parsons, an incredible person who's just helped so many people. So just a couple minutes, and then we're going to jump to Debbie Dingle.
Yeah, hi everyone. Some of you may have heard that our community in Washtenaw County and really the Ypsilanti community has been completely devastated by the unexpected loss of Melvin Parsons. For those of you who do know him, you probably remember him as Farmer Melvin. He was the executive director of We the People Opportunity Farm. He did a lot of work for reentry in our community that not only impacted us in Washtenaw County, but across the state. He traveled across the country to help improve life after incarceration for people. Yeah, it's hard to talk about. He touched a lot of people in our community, not like local electeds knew him very well because he was always very eager to share his plans for expanding the farm and other space to carry on beyond the farm and create a cafe for the community. But if you've ever eaten at Bellflower in downtown Ypsilanti or Zingerman's Roadhouse or Maze, you've had produce that's been grown by Melvin Parsons. And so this loss is great for our community, and it's just something that we wanted to take a second to honor. Kathy, do you want to say anything?
Melvin Parson and I were friends for 20 years. I knew Melvin from when he first came home, and I was involved with the MPRI. And this is such a loss to so many people on an individual level. He touched so many lives. The stories have been all over online, but he also touched Washtenaw County on a systemic level. The good he did, it is heartbreaking because he could have done so much more. And we will miss him as a person. We will miss the good he has done, the good he will do. So we're going to ask for just a minute to remember him for those that loved him. But we're also going to ask that you remember his work. He was a leader in the Black farming movement, in addressing food deserts by growing healthy food. He not only put food on Zingerman's or Bellflower or Maze, he handed out free, fresh, healthy vegetables to people in the neighborhoods where there's no grocery stores. He did so much. So I will ask, and there will be asks coming around at some point from the organizations like We the People to support those causes for equity and healthy food that Democrats support. But right now, could everyone just take a moment and remember Melvin Parsons? Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy and Annie. I'm so sorry. We're sorry for the loss of such a wonderful human being. I just want to mention other things to do besides contacting our senators. The cruelty never stops unless we stop it. There's an information on the board over there, how to sign a petition to stop an ICE facility in Romulus. All right, so take a look over there. Okay, Debbie Dingle is on the front lines for us, and I want to give the mic to her. Her flight was canceled, so she couldn't make it here this morning, but she's on Zoom, right? We got Debbie?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, my plane after 5 hours got canceled last night, and my 6 a.m. plane, which I was at the airport for at 4:30, is now leaving at 2:02. So I'm on the 12-something plane. And that kind of describes my life right now. Much rather be with all of you. This has, I think the last week has been one of the most consequential weeks. Yet the fact of the matter is the man in the White House is ruling by chaos. And we're all focused on Iran, and I'm going to talk about that, but we are not paying attention to all the things that he's doing every day. And I do believe that he deliberately rules by chaos, so we don't pay attention to some of the issues that we need to be paying attention to. It's been a week since he joined with Israel in bombing Iran. I opposed that the Saturday morning when we all woke up and found out that the action had taken place. I have been talking to ambassadors in every country that has been impacted by it. We have families from our community that have been stranded in different countries over there, trying to bring them home. Of the most consequence was the vote. Teresa talked about the Senate, but both the House and the Senate had a vote on it was a war powers resolution. In the House, it was bipartisan. Tom Massey introduced it with Ro Khanna. I voted yes for it. It was very clear that only the Constitution has the power, that Congress is the only one that has the power to declare war. And decisions like this must be debated openly, transparently for the American people. And it would have called for military involvement in hostilities with Iran to immediately cease. It was defeated. And quite frankly, 4 Democrats voted against it with the Republicans. And had those Democrats not voted with the Republicans, the resolution would have passed in the House. We are going to continue to offer resolutions. We are going to continue to put pressure on the president in every way that we can. And one of those ways is all of you, so that they are hearing the grassroots pressure that the American people do not want another endless war in the Mideast that is going to, nor do we want troops on the ground. We've seen enough of that. This president has not told us what his plans are, what his goals are, how he's going to achieve them. It is very clear that they had not thought this through. They did not have plans. We do not know who the next regime is going to be, who's going to be the leader. depending upon even, and I got to be careful because it was classified, at the classified briefing, different cabinet secretaries gave us different reasons. Is it regime? Did we go in because we wanted regime change or did we not? What triggered it that day? I asked a lot of questions in my newsletter last week. I mean, I told you the questions I am. I don't have a lot of time today because you've got a very important agenda, but I promise you that I am not going to let American troops or civilians be put at risk if I can have any say. And we are going to keep fighting for it. But you all need to be concerned about what you are hearing Donald Trump say. With the coldness and the calculatedness, when he was asked yesterday, do you think Americans need to be worried on American soil? And he answered, yeah, people will probably die. He talks about people. We've lost 6 soldiers that we know about right now. I fear that there are more deaths already that we have not been told about. And when he's asked if more people are going to die, and by the way, it isn't just Donald Trump. At our briefing that we had when we asked questions, Pete Hegseth, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit. I got to be careful because I'm going to warn people. We got to be careful about our language because when we are out there doing these rallies, we now have to remember we have trackers that are recording every word we say. And we need to be very deliberate, very focused, not afraid to ask questions, but do remember we are being videotaped more than sometimes we think about when we get wrapped up. This is a very scary time. And we all need to, I come from a generation where I lost classmates in an endless war. And other people in this room did. And we are just going to have to fight it, period. That vote was Thursday. We had a very truncated week. We've had a truncated month because Republicans don't believe in voting and or being transparent or they don't have the votes. Their margins have become so we spend more time out than we do in. We had an additional vote this week on the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill, which again it passed in the House. I voted against it. In the Senate, it did not pass. And I want to say to you, Democratic senators, except Fetterman, are holding firm, and Republicans are joining in not funding Homeland Security until there are serious guardrails put on ice. You know, we've reviewed them from not being able to go after people unless they've got a judge issue warrant, no masks. Why can't they abide the way every other law enforcement does in this country, prohibiting them from being at schools, hospitals, places of worship, ending the racial profiling, establishing a clear use of force, allowing independent investigations of misconduct. You know the list. We did have a win that he finally had it with Kristi Noem, who was an evil person. And I don't care if I get quoted calling her an evil person. I've never seen a more narcissistic, selfish, scary, evil person in a place of position. I know the replacement. A lot of people have different feelings about him. I could tell you stories where he's been kind to me in past. And while I think he's very much a maker, I do not believe, and I could be wrong, but I've seen him. I don't believe that he would view the killing of American citizens and call them domestic terrorists within the first 60 minutes. And he knows what happened in Minnesota isn't right. Now, that's a low bar. So we're going to have to see where we are. But quite frankly, anybody, and even Republican senators said this, anybody is better than Kristi Noem. As we talk about what's going on in Iran, I got to be careful, but not that they gave us answers that you would like to have had. In the classified briefing, we asked about the budget. Would we be getting a supplemental appropriation? How are they paying for this war? They could not answer the question. how much is this costing us each day? So I'm not giving anything away from the briefing, but if you read the paper, some people are saying it's costing us $2 billion a day. They're going to have to come to us at some point for a supplemental appropriation. I will not be voting for it. I will tell you all that right now. But this is a very, very scary time. I do want to say, as I'm talking about and how we again voted against the Homeland, ICE has got to get guardrails. We're not going to get rid of ICE with this administration. Trump's not going to sign it. Would be nice if we could, but we got to do everything we can to defund them. And they've got money from that big shitty bill. Again, I don't care if people hear me call all the words I think of the big shitty bill, because it is a big shitty bill. And we're starting to feel the consequences. And I'm going to talk about that again in a second. But TSA is really hurting. I had phone calls yesterday, called Chad Newton, who runs the airport, and said, we need to really be aware of how low the morale is of TSA. I'm trying to get I'm working with the union that's not recognized for TSA to find out who needs money to help get to work. Chad is making sure that they can get food and serving them meals during the day while they're there. And there are other things. So I want to say to people, kindness towards TSA is important. And when they threaten us on, they thought that if they got rid of Kristi Noem, we would then vote for this budget, which we obviously didn't. When they say we're hurting FEMA, it's bullshit. Doge, Elon Musk is who they howled out FEMA. Kristi Noem was not sending money from FEMA. FEMA is a very important organization, but it is not happening because it's not being funded right now. It happened a year ago. And anybody who wants the facts on that, I can share that too. There was an ICE incident working with Alicia and others. An American citizen was arrested. He was released as soon as somebody, called me, and I called ICE. I'm trying to get all the facts of that, and I do want you all to know on that. There was also a resolution, it was introduced by Nancy Mace, that we referred to the Ethics Committee on Representative Tony Gonzalez and I voted with leadership to refer to the Ethics Committee so it could be investigated before photos that about their being released. And I think we need to be very transparent about these affairs. Tony Gonzalez ended up, it's about time somebody in the Republican Party held somebody accountable. They were in a very difficult situation because their vote margin is so close. They didn't want Gonzalez to resign. I wish he would push him out if I could. But they did convince him not to run again. So he dropped out of running again. I think it was Thursday night. But I want to be really clear that sexual harassment and misconduct cannot be tolerated anywhere, anytime. And we've got to make sure that we are not unintentionally in any way, shape, or form discouraging people from coming forward. Teresa mentioned the detention center. There are many, it's not in my district, but I'm a Michigander and I care about it. I've been working very closely with the mayor from the beginning. I have raised I got to be careful here. Maryland is suing to try to keep that from happening. Talk to the governor about options. The AG is looking at it. I just want to assure you, I'm working with the ALCU, getting Romulus legal help, doing all of that. Again, we need to make noise. Donald Trump is somebody who hears noise. So we have to be together in showing how unhappy we are with the way that we are going. But I was going to make this point at some point, so I'm going to say this now. We need to be careful right now. I heard Teresa talking about safety, and I don't know what led up to that when I signed on. When we need to, the No King's Day is March 28th. We're going to have many of them within our geographical district. I think I'm up to 11 that I'm going to try to get to. But I do, okay, Teresa's telling me I'm out of time. I want to say I could talk about healthcare, food, Epstein. Don't anybody forget yesterday's jobs report that we lost 92,000 jobs. So this is bullshit that he's got a great economy, or the fact that gasoline prices have increased by 40% in some states. Ours are up about 22% because of what's going on in the oil in Iran. But so I'll talk about my 8 other subjects next month. But I want people, we need to turn out on the 28th, and we need to have very strong security, people watching out for each other. The threats are up. I'm working with law enforcement to make sure that we are keeping people safe. Nobody should be discouraged from going. Everybody should be alert. I want everybody really alert. There are people that are really trying to disrupt and cause trouble. And with that, I'll close, but also say that I've talked to the governor, and we do need to talk about how we cannot take for granted the safety of our elections in November, and that we are all working to make sure they cannot disrupt, and that we keep our ballot box safe and do not discourage people from going to the ballot box. And that's fast. There's more to talk about than I think I've ever had to talk about.
Thank you, Congresswoman. I just want to say how fortunate we are. Debbie does everything we want her to and more. So yay for our votes. Yay for our votes. Appropriate that the last main subject she mentioned was oil and oil prices. Our next segment of this program touches on that directly. So I'm turning it over to the program chair who made all this happen.
Thank you very much. We do, in fact, have a packed meeting today. To make it simple for all concerned, all the presentations that are coming up next, the presenters will have 5 minutes each. And on the line right now is Sarah Mills, a professor at the University of Michigan, an expert on data, slating of data centers at the local level, what rules should apply. What she published a report about, I think about 2 months ago on this subject. And she will be followed by Gretchen Driskell, the Washtenaw County Water Resources Commissioner, who will speak about that aspect of this question. So Sarah, the floor is yours.
All right. You can hear me all right, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Hi, thanks for having me this morning. As mentioned, I'm Sarah Mills. I am at the university. My work is on land use planning and mostly about energy. I direct a center that helps local governments across Michigan set policies related to clean energy. And so some might say that I'm now an expert in data centers, but that was not true 6 months ago. I am a new learner on data centers, but we were getting calls from both urban communities that had questions about sustainability and the rural communities that we typically work with in citing, helping them understand the pros and cons of large-scale renewable energy. And so we put together this guide. The whole purpose of it, the first half, is to try to understand what is true about data centers. We do have some data centers in Michigan, but they're relatively small. There's big data centers in other states, but they have a different policy context. So the guide effectively answers what are likely water, energy, affordability impacts, and lays out what the state level policies are related to those. But again, most of my work is to help local governments. So the second half of the guide is lays out what local governments should consider in this space. I'll lay out the 5 things, but I'm just going to back up and say data centers are industrial development. And a lot of places in Michigan haven't had a lot of industrial development recently. And so what I'm hoping is that the guide helps spur thinking about what sort of regulations, what sort of zoning policies local governments have in place for all sorts of industrial development. Specifically, what we suggest is that they look at their industrial zones and think about where they are located. Are they appropriately sized? Are have we been planning for industrial zones where we have water access and electrical infrastructure, and also thinking about surrounding land uses? There's nothing that says industrial zones have to expand, but if a local government hasn't considered its industrial zone recently, they need to. The second thing that it talks about is considering quality of life impacts. So I think a lot about sound and screening, and light pollution screening is effectively planting trees. But equally important, I think, is to consider the end of life for industrial uses, including data centers. So it's standard for renewable energy to have decommissioning, requiring the developer to take the infrastructure away. And that's one of the things we talk about. We talk about getting commitments in writing and property tax guarantees, but also it's just a plug for planning.
Sarah, that is the end of what your statement?
Yep, I was gonna say, like, I felt that there was a shepherd's hook coming out, so there you go.
Okay, thank you very much. I should also say we are considering the possibility of having a special meeting on this subject. I realize having brief 5-minute presentations is inadequate. So if there's interest, perhaps just mention that to me or Teresa after the meeting. We're trying to pull that together. Gretchen Driskell, would you please take the floor?
Sure. Well, thank you, Debbie, for Congresswoman Dingell for being here and for representing us in DC. It's a really hard time. And for Sarah, I actually had a chance to work with her a lot, citing renewable energy back when that was her primary project. So it's been great to work with her again. I'm really here today to talk about what's happening in Washtenaw County. We have on our website now, the county website, we have a data center page. So for folks that want to learn more about it, there's a lot of resources there. There's some reports, and Beth Gibbons, our resiliency officer, is keeping that up to date. And we're also having cross-departmental meetings about data centers. There also on that page is a link to Ypsi Township, the potential Ypsi Township data center and the Saline Township data center. And then we are really fortunate to have all the great work that Sarah did to talk about what's going on at the local level. There was a resolution that came out from the Environmental Commission last year, County Environmental Commission Council, and with Sarah's report, we're going to be having on March 27th regional local elected conference or meeting Zoom call to go over all her recommendations. So her report is also on that website for folks that might want to learn more about data centers. At this time, so as a Water Resources Commissioner, I have responsibility for surface water, so stormwater, specifically managing stormwater runoff and making sure that it doesn't contaminate our fresh water. So we do have one project right now in Washtenaw County that has been approved, and that is the Saline Township Data Center. So our commission is working, has a permit for soil erosion sedimentation control. And we also have a stormwater engineer to manage the stormwater runoff. So we're working with them on their site plan. We have a stormwater engineer that reviews that and makes sure that they are following our stormwater management best practices, which actually Saline Township doesn't have an ordinance. That is something that the developer has volunteered to do. I know that there are some concerns additionally about the well water, and the other thing, that consent judgment for Saline Township is also there's a link on that website, the Washtenaw County website, to the consent judgment. So the consent judgment does require monitoring wells for that site because the developer would be responsible for any drawdown. So this is not my area of expertise. Just to be clear, the Environmental Health Department does the wells and the well testing and the management and the permitting. There are going to be 2 wells, one for potable water. That would be about a 20,000 gallon per day drawdown, and that would be used for office work. The employees are going to be there. And then there's also going to be a well for fire suppression. So that I know that has been a big question and concern that I'm hearing that there are residents that are miles away from the property right now. They're really concerned about their wells right now, and that's this project doesn't impact that. So I just want to make sure people knew that. And then the wetlands are regulated by Eagle. It's a 700-acre site. 250 acres are part of this development, and 9 acres are being permanently impacted, and they're paying into a wetland mitigation bank for that project. I think the only other thing about the data center that I've heard of other questions, the consent judgment goes over some of the other things in Saline Township as far as decommissioning, community benefits. There's a noise ordinance. No further expansion there. The rest of that property is going to be conserved as farmland. And then there is some community benefits that Sarah talks about in her report. One specifically that I'm really excited about is the $4 million for farmland preservation, because Saline Township has 2 major transmission lines that cross the township, and that's why this project's located there. And that will help leverage, so they can actually protect a lot. They could leverage that to be about $16 million worth of farmland protection. So I think I ran out of time. So thank you, Eli, for letting me speak, and I look forward to seeing everybody later. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. We did plan on having a third speaker, Peter Sinclair, but he is not online. And let me make sure he's not in the room. No. Okay. So then we're going to move on to the other candidate panels.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to mention that the Anishinaabe Caucus, Andrea, are you still here? Where are you? Yeah. Has proposed 2 resolutions regarding data centers that we will be voting on, members will be voting on at our March 22nd state county convention. You can read the full text of those resolutions on our website, washtenawdems.org, under the vote tab under March 22nd. It's all there, right? And thank you to the Anishinaabe Caucus.
Thank you very much. So we now have a series of candidate panels, and actually if the Secretary of State candidates could come to my right. So we'll start that in a minute. The first panel is Secretary of State candidates. Each will have 5 minutes. Then presentations by 2 candidates for the University of Michigan Board of Regents, also 5 minutes each. And then a panel with candidates, Democratic candidates for the Michigan State Board of Education. So the first 2 of these presentations will be timed. Rayanne Weymouth is our timekeeper. Rayanne, would you please hold up the yellow page that will appear when you have 30 seconds left. And when your time is up, a red page will appear, logically enough. And with that, I'll start by introducing Barb Byrum, the Ingham County Clerk. You've actually had the opportunity to hear Clerk Byrum before. We held an October panel with all the then candidates for the Democratic candidates for the office of Secretary of State. As it happened, 2 of the 3 dropped out. And so we thought, okay, it's really a different race, and we would give Clerk Byrum another chance to talk to you. So 5 minutes. Thank you. Yep. I'll have to, I think unfortunately, no. This meeting is so packed, but the candidates are here, so you can speak with them after they make their presentations, perhaps out in the hallway, so you can have a chance to ask questions. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want me standing? Standing. Got it. So thank you all so much. My name is Barb Byrum. I'm running for Secretary of State because Michigan needs a secretary, of course, who's ready, willing, and able to defend our democracy on day one. And I'm that candidate. I've been doing that work, serving as the Ingham County Clerk for the past 13 years. I've been running elections for 13 years, 42 elections, as a matter of fact. I have, if you'll recall, after the 2020 election, Donald Trump was claiming that the election was rigged. I took to social media and legacy media, and I pushed back against those election denying claims because they were false. During the investigation, you know, the joint House and Senate committees did an investigation of the 2020 election. I was the only Dem that defended our democracy at that investigation. I stood up for the election results, the accuracy of our elections, whether that's in Ingham County, Washtenaw County, Wayne County, Gogebic County, Lake County, Kent County, Muskegon County. Our elections are safe, secure, and accurate in the state of Michigan because all of our county clerks and our local clerks follow the law, follow statute, follow the Constitution and our procedures to make sure our elections remain safe, secure, and accurate. Our next Secretary of State needs to be ready to take on Donald Trump. I've already done that and won. As a matter of fact, in his first year, he signed an executive order. And I rallied election administrators from around the United States to sign on to a brief with me in opposition of his executive order. We now know it, the SAVE Act. Before it was cool, I opposed the SAVE Act. And those officials all signed on to that brief. Last month, we found out that we won when a federal district court ruled that the U.S. Constitution does not grant the President of the United States the authority to regulate U.S. elections. We knew that. He knew that. His advisors knew that. They seem not to care about the Constitution or the laws, but we will hold them accountable. Donald Trump is a clear and present danger, an attack on our democracy, on our access to the ballot box. You know, as county clerk, I have been preparing for all sorts of scenarios over the past 13 years. In the beginning, it was floods. It was losing power at a polling location. Then it turned to AI, it turned to cybersecurity, it turned to denial of service, it turned now to ICE and Donald Trump and election deniers feeling empowered to misbehave at our polling locations. That will not happen under my watch. It will not happen under the watch of now Attorney General Dana Nessel, because she is not going to allow it. She is the only one that can bring suit. And I will stand with her, continue to stand with her. She has been an amazing resource and friend to democracy in our great state. So I must give her a shout out. Yes, I have been here before. The Secretary of State race has changed dramatically over the past few months. Two things remain the same. I have two opponents, and Donald Trump is still a threat to our democracy. It is important for people to show up. And as candidates, I am so glad to see Suzanna Shrekli here as well, because voters deserve to meet their candidates. Because if we're not showing up to these events, then how will you expect us to show up for you when we are elected? It has been an honor to serve as the county clerk in Ingham County. Election administration has been a passion of mine. It is not just a job for me. It is my passion. Before serving as county clerk, I served in the legislature as the ranking Dem on redistricting and elections, where I fought the Republicans when they were knowingly disenfranchising voters with their horrible maps during redistricting. They were dividing communities of interest. Thankfully, we all together put in the Constitution, Citizens Redistricting Commission, access to the ballot box in so many new ways. Over the past 13 years, we have really increased access to the ballot box, which is why when Donald Trump started chirping about eliminating mail-in voting, we know that as absentee voting. I was ready to rally election officials again to push back on that. I am so thankful to be here. I want to mention, though, I have been endorsed by your county clerk, Larry Kestenbaum, Senator Jeff Irwin, who's here, and former party chair Chris Savage. I have been endorsed by dozens of county and local clerks, dozens of current and state legislators, because I am a fighter. They know the fight that I have. They know where my heart is. And I am asking for your vote at convention. I am Barb Byrum. Thank you so much. Sorry.
So to briefly introduce Suzanna Shrekli, the Michigan Lottery Commissioner, former Michigan Lottery Commissioner, sorry. Mike is yours.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I have 5 minutes to change the hearts and minds of folks in this room. Kent County gives you 3 minutes. So look, I'm running for Secretary of State. I want to give you a little bit of flavor of who I am because we're candidates, but we're also people too. So I am a proud first-generation American. My parents fled authoritarianism in the former Yugoslavia. And my story is just like everybody else's American story. We come here in search of a better life. And so it's unforgivable and unthinkable that Authoritarianism has taken root here in this country, and we see it every day with our president. I also tell everybody I grew up tough because I grew up playing ice hockey. I was the only girl in an all-boys team, and I didn't get any respect until I was fighting in the corners with the boys, and then after that, we were best of friends. But team sports have taught me what it means to lead, what it means to follow, and it's about something bigger than yourself. And I know your state senator over there likes to play hockey as well because he told me last month when I was here. I grew up also hardworking in my family's restaurant. My family owns a family diner in Waterford, and I was on a Livingston County Dem call. My father had a dual kidney transplant 2 years ago, and he got the best care and service at the University of Michigan. And he gets up every single day and he goes to work. And I was on a Livingston County Dem call, and I had this young man tell me, "Susie, it's so good to see you and your dad doing well." I said, "How do you know my dad?" He goes, "I was on his care team for his transplant surgery." So there are Dems everywhere, and they are loud and proud about what's happening this cycle. So and the opportunities that are before us. So those customer service values are something I have held my entire career. My dad taught me that when you are at the register and you have a human being standing in front of you, you serve the human being before you pick up the phone. I think we got to get a little bit back to that. And so in every role I've had, I've been accessible as the Michigan Lottery Commissioner, as the child advocate for the state, as well as the Director of Juvenile Justice Reform at DHHS. But I began my career as a prosecutor. For nearly 10 years, I prosecuted cases, and for half of that time, I stood up to defend children who have been murdered, who have been victims of sexual and physical abuse, so that also made me tough. I am used to taking on the worst kind of threats in the courtroom, and I'm ready to do that again as Secretary of State because that's exactly what we can expect to see in 2026. A different type of threat, but we're going to need somebody strong to stand up in the courtroom as well as in the court of public opinion. And for the last 7 years, I served as the Michigan Lottery Commissioner. I have statewide executive experience, over 8 regional offices and over 200 employees, and a very big budget. I also served as Deputy Legal Counsel to the Governor, and during that time, I had the distinct privilege of working on emergency management. And unfortunately, we saw a number of emergencies under the governor's first term. One of those, we saw the Midland Dam breaking, we saw COVID, we saw a polar vortex, we saw the Ray Township fire. So there was a lot. One that stands out to me especially is the meeting of the electors in 2020. We had worked hand in hand with the Michigan State Police as well as the Secretary of State's office because we had received threats from all sorts of people. At that time, if you remember, Trump was calling Mike Shrekli. Trump was calling the State Board of Canvassers. Poor Aaron Langeveld. He was on the Board of Canvassers and he was getting death threats because our president was telling people that the election was rigged. And time again, our clerks, our courts, Ed McBroom, a Republican who investigated the 2020 election, all found that they were safe and secure, and that our elections are still free, fair, and independent. So that day is seared in my mind. There was Michigan State Police all over the place because we didn't know what to expect, but because of our hard work and preparation, we were able to deliver those slate of electors and push back against those fake electors. And so I'm running for Secretary of State because I believe that this moment in time calls for somebody with my unique background as emergency management on a statewide basis, state executive experience, it's anything like the Secretary of State's office, as well as the prosecutorial experience to stand up and push back. We're going to need a fighter to take it to Trump where it matters most, which is in the courtroom. And I've done that work as Deputy Legal Counsel. I've done that work as a prosecutor. I've worked hand in hand with the Attorney General's office on all sorts of litigation, from the Flint water crisis to a bunch of other things. Strategy, litigation management is key and important. But I also don't want to lose sight of what this office is about. Making sure that we're making the lives of Michiganders easier. Everything from expanding mobility units to expanding walk-in hours. I heard a story about a lady who was 80 years old helping her friend who needed to get registered to vote, but she was bedridden, and because she didn't have an appointment, she was turned away. We got to make sure that we're meeting people where they're at and delivering on services that make the lives of Michiganders better. And so I'm ready to stand up and fight for your Constitution, your right to vote, and to make sure that your lives are better every single day. Thank you so much. I ask for your vote as well.
Thank you very much. Would the candidates for the University of Michigan Board of Regents positions please come to the front? So Paul Brown and Amir Makled are both here to speak to us. I'll start with Paul Brown. We always go by alphabetical order by the last name.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Makled, how you doing? Good to see you. Hello, everyone. Thank you. I'm Paul Brown. It's really an honor to be here. I've been driving my old car all around the state this winter, and it has been quite a winter, especially when you're up in the Keweenaw Peninsula. But it's nice to be back home in the community that is particularly impacted by the University of Michigan because our largest campus and hospital complex is here. As I mentioned, I live here in Ann Arbor. I grew up in northern Michigan in a union household. My mother was a Teamster. My first summer job was working the freight boats on the Straits of Mackinac as a seafarer. And then once I moved my family and I here to Ann Arbor, I was a lecturer at University of Michigan and a proud AFT Leo member. So when I thought about running for the University of Michigan, there were several things in my life that were very important. Obviously, the dignity of working people, especially considering my union background. I'm the only candidate in the race who has been a union member. My wife is a proud union member. The other, I was on the board of directors of the League of Conservation Voters. So carbon neutrality in the environment, another huge issue. And then probably in many ways most important, when you think of the University of Michigan and you compare it to the greatest challenges we face in our society today, two of them being cost and access to education for all, as well as cost and access of healthcare. University of Michigan is uniquely positioned to have a massive impact on both of those incredibly important issues. And so when I joined the board about 7 years ago, impact was really what I was looking for. And, you know, it's probably somewhat poignant and bittersweet that we lost Jesse Jackson recently, and he was someone who had massive impact. And most people don't even know all the details of the impact he had on corporate boards and in the C-suite in bringing diversity to it. The university has a lot of challenges in this environment. We're being attacked by all sides with a lot of controversies. But I think you can be proud of some of the things we've accomplished in those 7 years, especially in those areas that are particularly important to me. And I want to mention some of them. Since I joined the board, we passed an incredibly progressive unionizing policy, and that has resulted in the doubling of the number of labor unions at the university from 9 to 18. It has resulted in the doubling of unionized workers at the University of Michigan from 26% of our employees to now 50%. And of those union employees, since I joined the board, their compensation, their pay has increased by 46%. That's double non-union employees. So what that tells me is we need more union employees at the University of Michigan. Thank you. Some other really important stats is the impact we've had on diversity and inclusion. We, as you may know, have the Go Blue Guarantee, which is all families in Michigan who make $65,000 or less, their children can go to the University of Michigan tuition free. We have now doubled that to $125,000 any family, which has had a massive impact on diversity. We have doubled the percentage of students of color at the University of Michigan. It's now 43% of the students at the University of Michigan, which is way above the national population average, and again, almost double the state population average. African American students at the University of Michigan have gone up by 13% in the last 7 years. So there are a lot of things that I think we can be proud of at the University of Michigan where real impact has been made. And there are a lot of things in our society today that are troubling. And there has been a lot of calls for the University of Michigan to get involved in some of those hot button political issues. Frankly, sometimes I'm uncomfortable using the University of Michigan as a weapon to punish those or governments that we disagree with. But sometimes it has to be done. So I wanted to inform all of you of some of the things that we are doing. Right now, the University of Michigan has 5 lawsuits with the Trump administration. And I can go into great deal on all 5 of them. The other is what we're doing with ICE. As you've heard, there has been ICE activity In the surrounding communities, luckily, we have not had any on the University of Michigan campus. But we have already put things in place. A lot of people call us a sanctuary campus. We do not partner with ICE. ICE is not welcome on our campus. We have sent out several communications where students or citizens, if they see ICE on our campus, can call a hotline, and we will send a SWAT team of our security and lawyers to respond to ICE. They are prohibited from going anywhere on our campus that is not public, and we have teams of lawyers and counselors to support any student or a citizen or community member that is confronted with them. I'm sorry, I am out of time. There are many issues. I'll be here after if anyone wants to talk about them. The one I didn't get to is transgender care at the hospital, which is an incredibly important thing to my family and I. It's disgusting what the Trump administration is doing to hospitals and doctors over that subject. And as Martin Luther King said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. So I hope in the end, we will get to a better place on that issue as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think in the interest of fairness, I'm going to give Mr. Makled 6 minutes.
That's quite all right. I'll get it done in the short time we have. But I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak this morning, and I want to thank the opportunity to really address some of the big concerns. For those that don't know me, my name is Amir Makled. I'm a civil rights attorney. I'm from the city of Dearborn, and just to pay respect to our Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, it shows what the good elected leaders come from Dearborn, and the product of Debbie Dingell. She's a Dearborn person, and so I'm proud to say that I'm from the same city that she's from. So with that being said, I am the son of Lebanese immigrants. My parents came here in the 1970s, and just like Suzanna was saying, we came here with the hope of a better future. And when my family came here, we found that in the community that we reside in the city of Dearborn. My dad worked at the Ford stamping plant at the Rouge facility. We're a union household. He was a member of the Local 600. And so I grew up with working class roots. And I went to the University of Michigan Dearborn for my undergrad. I went to Wayne State Law School for my law school. But when I decided to practice law, I decided to take on civil rights cases and criminal defense cases. But really, more importantly, it was about representing individuals. Because my whole upbringing was about standing up for the little guy. My dad always told me, work hard, but take care of the people around you. Because we grew up in an immigrant's class. And it was tough for us. We always had to work harder than the next guy. And so what led me to want to really work towards this position at the University of Michigan Board of Regents is because in my capacity as a civil rights lawyer, I volunteer at the National Lawyers Guild, and I take on cases for free to help protesters or people who need rights, know your rights seminars for immigration issues and things of that nature. And just across the parking lot here last year, I represented some students from the University of Michigan who were charged, thank you, who were charged for just freedom of speech, issues about protest. And I'm a firm believer that the university is a marketplace of ideas, and it's the bed of where ideas are formed in our universities. And these students were charged just for simply the crime of speaking against and speaking truth to power. And I stood against that, and we pushed back, and we won for those students. And so in my time representing them, I said there's one opportunity for us to get to the real crux of the issues here that the university is facing. Because I went to U of M Dearborn, and I remember what it was like when I wanted to reach out to the board, and it was impossible to get to them because I was a member of student government. And I stood there and talked about issues that I wanted to address the University of Michigan Board of Regents, and they were inaccessible. And so what I'm looking to do is run a people's platform. My platform is very simple. I want to end the sense and culture of fear on campus. Thank you. And when I mean that, I mean I don't want to have anybody who's scared to speak up. I don't want to see ICE on campus. Our country's at a crossroads. We're seeing what's happening by the Trump administration. We're seeing how communities are being attacked and assaulted that have nothing to do with immigration enforcement or free speech issues or healthcare issues, but only about the source of authoritarianism and fascism at the power at the top, because the Trump administration wants to take away our rights. And we need people and all elected officials to be able to push back. See, Trump came after me. When I was representing those students across the parking lot here, I was stopped at the airport with my wife and my children because they wanted to get into my phone. They wanted to talk to me about why am I taking on these cases. They wanted to me as a lawyer, wanted to know who am I representing and who am I dealing with. And I pushed back. I would not let them get into my device. And I stood about the attorney-client privilege, and I stood firm with my clients, and I was proud to represent those students and all the clients that I represent. Now, when we're talking about the University of Michigan, we need to get back to the real issues that we're facing here. There's some real fine points. We need to restore the DEI efforts that have been gutted by the Trump administration on our campus. The board capitulated, and I'm sorry to say it. They didn't push back. And we need to have an opportunity to have a board member that's not afraid to speak and push back. It takes one member of this board to change the culture, because the board pushes on issues of the culture on campus, policy on campus, because we can win a case. You can win a lawsuit. You can win a controversy, but the culture will still be there. The policies will still be in place. And if you don't have the right type of elected officials on this board that understand this issue, it won't change. Another concern that I'm seeing is the affordability and housing crisis at the University of Michigan. See, the university controls the housing. It's an autonomous entity. The state of Michigan gives the University of Michigan, Wayne State University, Michigan State, pure autonomy in our Constitution. So when they take on issues of housing in the city of Ann Arbor or housing in the city of Dearborn, they get to control. The board controls whether that housing unit is affordable, what the impact is on the local communities, and we're seeing this pushback right now. Why should communities not know what's being developed in their backyards and only find out when the bulldozers arrive? That's inappropriate. Look what's happening with the data center in Ypsilanti. This is a big problem, and I'm seeing this from every community event that I go to. And I want to make sure that we have a board that's accessible and understands the dynamic of what the communities they're serving. And that's why I'm running for this position. Because beyond just the affordability issue or the DEI issue or the free speech issue, there's also medical freedom issues. And Paul touched on this. And I want to speak with him in solidarity on this issue. Because there's medical freedom issues that the University of Michigan really needed to push back a little bit further. And Paul didn't have much support on this issue. Because when it comes to healthcare, the University of Michigan Healthcare is the largest research institution in the Midwest. And it's the most powerful, and it's the leaders and best, and we need to support it. And as we're expanding the healthcare system, it has the ability to give accessible healthcare to all the members of the state of Michigan, but also the right type of healthcare that's approachable and accessible to every individual. So transgender rights is important. As a civil rights lawyer, we need to have healthcare for everybody. Am I out of time? Okay. Well, I'm out of time. I took the 6 minutes. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning. I'm available for questions, and thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you. Eli. Everybody's calling Ellie and Eli. We're confused now.
No, we're never coming. In this county. All right. Thank you so much. Next panel is Democratic candidates, the Michigan State Board of Education. We decided to have a panel because the education challenges the state is facing are so critical. So if Judith Pritchett and Tiffany Tilley could come up, please. I'll distribute this. And Norm Howe will be the moderator.
And do we have a microphone for them?
Let's see. Thank you. I'm under because he transfers. Yeah.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Norm Howe, and we have Tiffany Tilley and Judith Pritchett, and I believe, okay, you're Judith. So we will go in alphabetical order by last name according to our practice. And I have a few questions that I would like to ask you, and we're going to give you 2 minutes each for your responses. And again, yellow card at 1 minute and 30 seconds, red card when the shepherd's hook comes out. And first question I'm going to ask you is, I'm going to come back with the second question and ask you to introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what your experience brings to this office. But first of all, I would like to know, what is the State Board of Education and why should we care about it? So Judith, if you could go ahead.
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me? The State Board of Education is actually mentioned in the Constitution, the Michigan Constitution, and its primary purpose is to provide leadership in education for pre-K through 12th grade students, and community colleges in the state. So it's pretty broad. When we get down to what does the state board do, one of our primary functions is to advise the legislature because they have the purse strings. They are the ones who make decisions along with the executive branch. Once all of the conference committees are done, et cetera, about how much schools are going to be allocated depending on per pupil and grant funding in order to operate in any one year. So that is one of our primary focuses. One of the other things that we do is hire the state superintendent. And the state superintendent is the individual who is in charge of the Michigan Department of Education, which has approximately 500 to 600 employees. And they are the individuals who hit the ground running and support all of our local school districts in Michigan, of which there are over 800, and that includes public school charters. We also have over 1 million public school students in the state. So Tiffany and I have had the privilege to hire 2 superintendents. The first one, Dr. Rice from Kalamazoo, was with us for 6 years, and he decided to retire last fall. And so we have most recently hired Dr. Glenn Maleko, was superintendent in Dearborn for 17 years, and is doing a fabulous job. He hit the floor running literally in December and has done a great job with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Judy answered a lot of it. I want to ask you all, how many in here are current or former educators? Thank you. Thank you for your service. How many of you have attended public school? Thank you. Education is so important because it touches everyone in this state on some level. Either you've taught, you've attended, or you sent your children to public school. Public school education is the cornerstone of our democracy, and it is worth fighting for. And there are so many things that we're fighting right now. And so, again, we have over 800 school districts in Michigan. Control is local. So that means while we set the policies and standards on the state level, districts still get to choose which curriculum that they will implement into their districts. I think that is the gist of it. So I don't need the whole 2 minutes. I'll give you some time back.
Thank you. So then if you could introduce yourself and give us some of your background and why should we vote for you?
All right, thank you very much. As indicated, my name is Dr. Judy Pritchett. I come to you seeking re-election to the State Board of Education. In order to be re-elected, we have to get nominated, and so we are looking for support at the Democratic Endorsement Convention coming up on April 19. Who is Judy Pritchett? Well, I have 25 years of experience in public schools, all in Macomb County. I was a high school social studies teacher, which as far as I'm concerned was the best job I had. I went from that to high school assistant principal, curriculum director, superintendent, and before I retired, I was chief academic officer at the Macomb Intermediate School District. I have interacted with public school teachers who are what is making public education work in the state of Michigan. Every time you see a public educator, thank them. I had the privilege to read to students this week in Ferndale. March is reading month, so we're all out reading with our students. And I watched those teachers in action, took care of this child, took care of that child, knew that this child needed this in order to learn. It's phenomenal just to stand back and watch it in action. So Tiffany and I have been member of the board now for 7 years. We are seeking re-election because we still have work to do. Currently, the board is made up of 6 Democrats and 2 Republicans. I don't have to tell you from our discussions this morning how important it is that we keep that balance. If it goes to 4-4, it will not be a functioning body. And I just got my yellow card, so should I pass this on to Tiffany?
Please.
Thank you. My name is Tiffany Tilley. I serve as your co-vice president of the State Board of Education. I matriculated as a young Dem. I actually remember Congresswoman Dingell before she was Congresswoman. She was very supportive of all of the young Dems. I was a former ECE teacher when I was young. I was an instructor in the SEMA program at Wayne State University, which was a K through 12 STEM program. I also have served undergrad. I served as support staff in Go Blue. Undergrad, I served as support staff. So I've been a parapro. I've been a substitute teacher. I've worked in the office. So I've gotten a chance to see a lot of the facets in education, not just K through 12, but actually ECE through 12. So between Judy and I, we kind of cover it all. In graduate school, I went on, and so, like I said, I'm a hybrid. In graduate school, I went on and received my MBA, got my real estate license, got into real estate development, community and economic development, and worked to bring in about $20 million into Southeastern Michigan to help communities and families. I also ran a nonprofit organization, a substance abuse prevention organization. And so worked in the schools, developed programming with that, and worked in the community, worked with parents, made sure that I educated the community and brought in resources, including Narcan. And if you're not familiar with Narcan, that is the nasal spray that helps people that are ODing, and it saves lives. And so I was able to implement that into the community. So I've worked with some of everyone from youth and families. Thank you.
Thank you. There is something that has happened down in the state of Mississippi over the past decade or so. It's called the Mississippi Miracle. And if you could explain to us what that is, and what is it that the state of Michigan could learn from that?
Thank you. Yes, I think everybody has heard about the Mississippi Miracle. To begin with, the rankings that are referred to related to the Mississippi Miracle are test results from NAEP, which is a national assessment. NAEP is not administered to every child in the United States. It is a random sampling. So, and I can speak to this personally because I was a superintendent. When NAEP was administered to some of the students in the district where I was superintendent, it was administered to our smallest elementary school and only to a random sampling in that school. When the results were, after the students took the test, the results were never shared with me. I'm not saying that as an excuse. I just want you to understand what the assessment is that they're referring to. So yes, Mississippi right now has better test results on the NAEP in literacy than Michigan does. The bottom line is we need to do better, and we are doing that with the leadership of some legislators, because remember what I said earlier, we work very closely with the legislators in making sure that laws are passed and money is appropriated so that we can move forward with programming for our students. So I'm going to pass this on to Tiffany, who will explain to you very well what we're doing in literacy in the state of Michigan at this point.
Thank you. And thank you for that question. We are definitely in crisis mode in Michigan when it comes to literacy. I know many of you know we are at the bottom when it comes to our scores. And one of the things that Mississippi did and that we are modeling as well is letters training. And so It's multifaceted. With letters training, the legislature has funded the training so that our educators can take the training for free. It is a 2-year training. So this is not something that happens overnight. Letters training is the science of reading. So they get a more in-depth understanding of teaching reading than they did in college. And so it's decoding, it's phonics, it's sight words. So it's a combination of multiple things. But letters training is only one component. So I drafted a resolution for the state board, which the state board adopted, which is to make sure that we're supporting letters training. But also we need literacy coaches in each school that are supporting those teachers and making sure that they are strong and they are present in the buildings. And then they have the additional support that they need. Some of our classes are oversized. So we need to make sure that they have that additional support. Also, we want to make sure that we're supporting families and parents. We want to make sure that we're sending free books home so that our parents can read to our students. Then we know that also we have a high literacy rate in some communities and functional illiteracy rate. And so that way, parents and students can learn to read together. So letters training is vital. It takes 3 years to master a curriculum. So that's 5 years. This is not a quick fix, but we do believe that this is the right approach. Thank you.
Thank you. What we have shown up here on the screen, and I don't know that you can see it very well, is the National Assessment of Educational Progress testing that Judy referred to. And what it shows is that the state of Michigan has dropped over the years, particularly in 4th grade reading. However, so we are below the national average, and I'm looking at the U.S. national average compared to other industrialized countries. That's not a very high bar. So, but in the 8th grade, it looks like we're hanging there pretty close to the national average. So it's not totally bad news. So if you could just comment on that.
Oh, I appreciate that overview and I appreciate this slide because it does indicate the differences. Again, we have got a myriad of issues that are facing our families and our students that the state board, along with the legislature and the executive branch, have been looking at over the last 7 years. We've got now over 65,000 preschoolers who are eligible and are attending preschool every day for free. That's in thanks to what we've been able to do in Lansing. That will make a difference, I guarantee it. Those children every day are receiving literacy and mathematics as they begin their preschool years and then moving into kindergarten. We've had a teacher shortage. That's been across the U.S., but in particular in Michigan. There's lots of reasons for a teacher shortage, but we've stood up to that and worked with our universities and worked with our legislators in creating programs to involve individuals who want to be teachers who maybe can't afford it. So one example is this past year, we're paying student teachers stipends. When I student taught, that was on my dime. I couldn't work for those 8 weeks because I had to be student teaching. Now individuals can get reimbursed for that so that we have more individuals who are ready to join the teaching ranks. So those are a couple of things that we've been able to do and point to in starting to change this stat over here.
Thank you. Let me say, and I'm not surprised, but your group is very astute. Thank you for the questions. So, like Judy said, there are a myriad of issues. And one of the things she spoke on is the teacher shortage. I do want to say, if you know anyone, any young person that wants to become an educator, they can go to school for free now, and they can also receive a stipend in the state of Michigan, and that's multiple colleges. That's the program through the state. Also, one of the big issues has been chronic absenteeism. So since COVID, it has been difficult to get our students back in the classroom. And it's been difficult to get them, once they're there, to continue to come to school. So if you think about it, when your children are off for the summer, there is a phenomenon that happens called learning loss. And if a student is chronically absent and they've missed a month of school, 60 days of school, 90 days of school, imagine the learning loss that takes place, and they're not catching up. So, again, this is a district level issue. This is not something we necessarily deal with on the state board level. However, districts are doing things to incentivize students to come to school. And so that's one of the issues. Transportation is another issue. So there are parents that cannot get their students to class because they don't have a car. They don't have the busing system is not easy. And depending on which community you live in, if you live in a rural community, you may be 20 minutes away from your school. There may not be a mass transportation system. One of the things that has been funded, and I'm very proud of, is electronic buses. And so some of the districts are utilizing that, and that is helping two things. It helps transportation and it helps the environment. But those are some of the issues that our students are facing. Thank you.
One more, okay. So going back to the Mississippi Miracle, one of the assessments of the state of Michigan, and you alluded to this already, our system is balkanized, let's put it that way. It's partially controlled coming from at the state level, but it's local control, and there's all kinds of different interests that are involved in that, which makes it difficult, I'm sure, to make progress. One of the things, as I understand it, in Mississippi was that they consolidated all that at the state level, and that somehow helped them to make the changes that they did. And I would like to ask you to comment on that.
There is no question that Michigan is a proud local control state. And I believe firmly in that. I think the community in which a child lives, family lives, should, and I know there's some local board members present, those individuals can make the best decision because they're closest to the children. On the other hand, there's always on the other hand on something like that. We need to look at what is best for children when we've got the research and the information right in front of us. And what we have seen across the state of Michigan is that our districts are ready to step up. They're ready to, they're calling MDE, they're signing up for letters training. We've had over 5,000, 6,000 teachers trained already. Teachers are still signing up for that. Districts are applying for grants through Michigan Department of Ed. Again, thankfully from the legislature who sees the need also to provide curriculum that is research-based so that they receive some funding for that because they've got budget issues also. Again, local school boards, local control makes those decisions. And then let's not leave our universities out of this. Our teacher training universities are also stepping up to the plate and saying, what is the best way for students to learn how to read? What is the best way for students to learn mathematics and numeracy? And what can we do to make sure that our teachers, who we are now getting to come back and are in our universities, how our teachers are ready to come out and have the teaching methods in order to make a difference. It takes a village, and we're ready with that village to do the best that we can.
Thank you. We are big on local control. We know how important it is. We do, and I believe, I will say that some things may have to come to a point to be mandated, like letters training. Again, we do have over 5,000 educators that have taken the training. We have over 7,000 that are currently in the training. But we want to make sure that we're getting everybody on board, and we need buy-in for that. Also, some of them are hesitant. They've never taken the training before. You know, sometimes the proof is in the pudding. You don't know until you're doing it. And so a lot of the educators that have taken the training, they may have not been sure about it, but after they take the training, they're on board 100%. So we need to get more educators on board. I will say another thing that the Michigan Department of Education is doing is they're entering into partnership agreements with districts. So districts, when they fall in the bottom with their test scores, they get a partnership agreement from the Michigan Department of Education. They set up a process to help them, to support them. They find out exactly where they are, why they are, and then they help to pull up those scores. So it's been working, and depending on the district, it may take some time. It may take a year for some districts. It may take a few years for others, but the partnership agreements have been working very well.
Thank you, and hopefully you'll be able to stay around a little bit if people have individual questions.
Thank you, and we'll see you at the convention.
Thank you so much, Norm. Thank you. Sure. Thanks. Before I move to Curtis Hertel, who is with us, I just want to point out on this subject that Senator Jeff Irwin, who may or may not still be here, played a leading role in the adoption of legislation that is requiring school districts to provide much more appropriate education to children with dyslexia, and that moves in the direction of phonics education generally. So I don't think Curtis Hertel needs an introduction. I hope that he'll spend some of his time talking about how we as a group can help face the challenges that are clearly coming our way in November 26th.
Good morning, everybody. You know, it's a good meeting when they've already run out of coffee, but someone was nice enough to make me a little more. I'm going to talk for a good 10 to 15 minutes, but I want to make sure that we also get to people's questions because I think it's important that I hear from you. When I became chair of the Democratic Party, one of the things that I ran on was creating a party that honors the work that people do on the ground. I think for far too long, people felt ignored. People felt like they weren't heard. And what we're trying to do, whether it's through Project 83, which is now fully funded for the first time in years, or adding county parties that have never existed before, 2 of them in the last year. We're opening up a Detroit office. We have tried to make sure that at the heart of everything we do is the people that do the work for this party. So I first of all want to thank you for all of your blood, sweat, and tears that you do every single day to try to get Democrats elected in this state. I want to first talk about convention because I know that there are a lot of concerns because of convention last time. So as chair, my first email that I ever sent out was about last year's convention and the disaster that credentialing was. And I want you to know that we have taken amazing steps moving forward to assure that that never happens again. I cannot promise no lines. There is no way that we can get, I think it's going to be one of our best attended conventions in history. but we can make them quicker and a more enjoyable experience for everybody. So I want to walk you through a couple of things that we've done that are going to help that. The first is that credentialing last time opened at 9 a.m. That made no sense because the first meetings were at 9 a.m. So by the time you actually opened, you had thousands of people in line already waiting to get to a meeting. And we were never going to get through those people in a timely manner. That's why at some point it was a 3-hour wait to register. And if you got to the middle of the building, actually around the elevators, there was a line in a circle that never actually met the real line. That's not going to happen again. So we will have credentialing, first of all, starting on Saturday. So on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning, we will open up credentialing. You can come down to Huntington Place the night before or the day before and register yourself for convention. There will be very low lines that day, and I think that's really important. We'll do that from 10 a.m. all the way up to the start of Legacy Dinner, so around 5 o'clock. So if you are coming to Legacy Dinner, or if you are just want to come down the day before and make sure that you're taken care of and don't have to wait a line on Sunday at all, we are going to do that. On Sunday, we will open the lines 2 hours before any meeting starts. So we will start at 7 a.m. You can come down in the morning. There's a breakfast. The breakfast is going to be at cost. Unfortunately, these places have a high cost for breakfast, but there's a breakfast that people can get tickets for $35. But you can also just wait in line there early in the morning and get yourself taken care of before there are any meetings at all. We are also doubling the number of staff and volunteers that are taking in those actual credentials. So we will be making sure that if you come, there are going to be many more volunteers and staff so that we can speed up the process that way. And we've also looked at every step of the process. You know, last year the party affairs office in the Michigan Democratic Party was vacant. So there wasn't anybody who actually planned that convention or was responsible for it in the same way. We now have Sarah Woolsey, who is our party affairs director. She's doing an amazing job. Her background, she was with the MDP, by the way. She was a Project 83 organizer over in Grand Rapids. But she has a background in two things: wedding planning and planning national sporting events. So actually has a background in making sure that tough days for people. Wedding days are probably not tough, but it's important, but they're real important to get right. And much larger conventions than this have been done well. And so we want to make sure that people have I can't say it'll always be pleasant, but a respected experience. We also, if you are a paid member to the MDP, we are rolling out a digital membership card. That will be launched. It's being soft launched right now. It'll be fully available 30 days out when we have everybody who is registered. You have to be registered again 30 days before the deadline in order to vote at convention, if you don't know that already, unless you're an elected official, including precinct delegates. They are elected officials as well. Sometimes people forget that. That digital membership card will also speed up the process for those members because it's just a quick scan as we go through right from your phone. It cannot be available to everybody, to non-paid members. There is a cost, unfortunately, to doing this, but a paid member to the Michigan Democratic Party is literally $1 a month. So if you're willing to give $1 a month to the Michigan Democratic Party, then you will have a paid membership card that will also help speed up the process. We also are going to make sure that we honor and provide a workable experience for people with disabilities. The Michigan Democratic Party, by our bylaws, requires everything that has to do with voting to be available in Braille. That has never been done. It will be happening at this convention. Last convention, we didn't have anyone signing from the podium, nor was it closed caption. Both those things will be done at this convention. There was no separate, thank you. There was no separate line for people with disabilities that couldn't wait in line for hours in order to vote. That is also being taken care of. So we are trying to think of every way we can make this a more enjoyable experience. One of the other things that we're doing with that is the voting process. We're going to have, you come in at 7 or the day before, you register, then there are caucuses, and then congressional caucuses, and then eventually at 3 o'clock we get into the room, we start the voting process. Before, you had to download an app on your phone, and the app was confusing. Oftentimes it didn't work for people. There were a lot of problems. So we are going from that app system to an email-based voting system. It's called Democracy Engine. It's what the DNC uses. I've used it before. It is very simple. And that allows us to do a couple things. One, if you can get your email on your phone, you can vote with a simple web-based form. Now, if you can't, we'll cover that in a second. But I think if you don't have email on your phone, that's one of the suggestions that we have. By the way, we're going to run teach-ins on all of this. We're going to have Zooms available for all members about this process if you have questions or concerns. We're going to make sure that people understand the process before they get there, or at least have an opportunity to. The web-based form is a simple email, but it allows us also to have one vote. So we're going to come in, we're going to nominate all the candidates, and then we're going to have one vote in all the races. That's good, because oftentimes by the time you got to like Wayne State Board of Governor, half the darn room had left because they had a bus to catch or something else. This allows them to everybody, every person that's there, to be part of that original vote and that original process. In some races, if we have multiple candidates for non-multiple races, not non-multiple spots. So U of M Board of Regents, Wayne State Board of Governors, the school boards you just heard from, those are all winner takes all. Top 2 candidates can make it through. That's the DNC rules. But on the Secretary of State's race, where we have 3 candidates, it is possible that we could go to a second vote, because if no one gets 50% on the first ballot, we will have to go to a second vote. This allows us to take those initial votes, start tabulating, and also determine if anything needs a second vote, and then we'll come back out. So while everyone will come in, we'll nominate all the candidates, we'll vote, we'll have some speeches from statewide candidates. All the candidates for Senate, all the candidates for governor are being encouraged to be there and to speak to convention goers. We will announce tabulated results as they come to us, and we will start out with any races that might have to go to a second vote in case we have to quickly do that. So that's the process that we will go through. I also want to be clear that there were a lot of concerns last time about tabulation and people feeling like the process was not fair. We have put into the rules, into the call of convention, that every single race has a right to have a representative back where we're tabulating, to make sure that they can see the process happen. So we're going to try to make sure that every candidate feels comfortable with not just the process, but also the results of that process as well. We cannot guarantee in any way, shape, or form that somebody wins a convention, but we can assure that it's a fair process for everybody involved. And that is a commitment that people have had from me throughout this process. And I think if you talk to the candidates, we have offered equal access to everybody in terms of what the rules are and the various different things that people can get through the Michigan Democratic Party. So that's what we're going to do with that. Yes, you have a question. Oh yeah, sorry. You have a.
Thank you, Eli. Curtis, you mentioned the training sessions coming up for some of the new processes and apps. When will those begin? And on Saturday, the day before, when will the convention or credentialing begin on Saturday?
10 a.m. the day before.
Okay.
All the way up to Legacy Dinner, and then 7 a.m. the day of. So that I just want to walk. Those are 2 really easy questions to answer. The other one is that once we're 30 days out and we know who is an actual registered member of the Democratic Party, we will start actually scheduling these vote trainings. And the reason we're just waiting to make sure that everyone who's legally to be part of the process, or almost all, because there are elected officials that could always sign up afterwards, but that almost all people are very simple. The one thing I will ask for people, if you don't get emails from us and you're a member, there's one of 2 reasons. Either you gave us another email address or we are in your spam filter. That does happen. And sometimes, because people have been angry at the party at times, and I'm not telling you shouldn't have been when you were, we have been blocked from actually emailing you. That is a problem. So if you if you are a member of the Michigan Democratic Party and you do not get our emails, either let me know, let Sarah Woolsey know. We have people that answer the phones at the office now again, so you can also call the office. And let us know that's happening, because it's really important to me that everybody gets to be part of this process. Now, let's say you don't have a smartphone. Let's say you don't have an email. That we will have tablets there for you to vote on as well. It would be easier if you could try to make sure you have your email there beforehand, but we will have a secondary option for people who cannot do it or who need help. And so we will make sure that everybody gets to be part of this process. Yes.
Hold on 1 second.
Sorry, they want to make sure everybody at the Zoom can get it too. Nope, right there.
So sorry.
Thank you. I was wondering if by chance we're going to have like routers or something so that everybody has access to internet, because a lot of times downtown, if you don't bring your own router, you get.
Yeah, we are So Huntington Place, where the convention is actually held, there have been less internet issues than Renaissance, where there was a lot of internet issues. But yes, we are working to boost everything as well. So I mean, yeah, we are literally going through every step of this process to make sure that it is as accessible, and we're running full tests through everything too. So like we are bringing staff down, testing how the internet works there, testing how credentialing will work, testing each of our processes to see if there are seconds that we can take off. I mean, we are going through disaster scenarios in case the internet came down, and what will we do in those situations. We are looking at the rooms and how big they are, because in all honesty, this convention is going to be bigger than ever. We're going to pipe all the audio into overflow rooms in case we have a convention that is 9,000 or 10,000 people, because the hall won't literally fit that many people. And there really isn't anything outside of a small basketball arena that will. So, you know, we are working to think of all of those things that'll make it easier. But yes, that is certainly something that we have talked to Huntington Place about, and making sure that we have as many routers available in that situation. Yes.
Can we bring our laptops into the conventions, do
Yeah.
email that way?
You could also you could also do that. Yes, absolutely. If you're not comfortable voting from your smartphone, you could also bring your laptop and vote by email that way as well. Yes.
What help do you need?
Thank you. So we do need volunteers. I mean, we have signed up a lot of people, but you know, especially on Saturday when Legacy is happening, our staff is biting off a lot that day, right? We have a staff of 30 people throughout the state. And then you add that into trying to do our largest dinner of the year and also do credentialing. So if there are people that on Saturday night are willing to help us a little bit in getting that through, that would be helpful. We'd also be happy to provide a chicken dinner at the end, and for Legacy dinner as well. Those chicken dinners aren't cheap. I don't think they're good, but they're not cheap. I always say that we promise at Legacy that we'll have great speakers and decent food. There are two questions on the.
Okay, who do you want me to go to first?
Oh, I don't want to.
I just want to ask how people sign up to volunteer.
Yeah, so through Sarah Woolsey, there'll be a form that's coming out that offers that as well. But through Sarah, we would ask that it's not people who are associated with any campaign, because we do want to make sure that it's fair. One of the questions I got asked during last time was, well, why aren't your volunteers working to register people? And I said, well, I'm a candidate. I mean, I can't, no, you know, it would be inappropriate for somebody who's involved in my staff as a candidate for something to be doing those things. And so anybody can volunteer except for those that are like directly associated with a campaign. It would be inappropriate for those people to be working the election and also, you know, running for office at the same time.
Okay.
Charles Roth, myvoter.org.
Yes, my friend.
Love everything you're saying. For the future, please consider ranked choice voting instead of runoffs.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I'm not opposed to that. There are some DNC rules that have to be worked out and everything else in order to be able to do that, right? So we are a subsidiary of the DNC as well. This, I guess, we have a little more options because we're really doing an endorsement and not the full nomination that happens in August. So I guess we probably could have thought of that. That's a good, it's a decent point. I'll look into it moving forward. The other thing is I'll say is that I don't know if we'll ever get to 100% virtual voting. I think that there are problems in part of the problem is that we have a 100% free membership system. And then you add in the fact that 20,000 Republicans could, send us an email. We have to make it, there have to be some possibility to not allow takeovers to happen from where we are. That being said, it is unfair categorically to people in the Upper Peninsula that it is basically a poll tax to require them to drive all the way to Detroit to usually spend an evening there. It is really unfair, and we are talking about options for that. So one of the things that we're doing right now in our rules committee is talking about how would we do satellite conventions in other places. So you could run a satellite convention in Detroit and then a satellite convention in the 1st District in the Upper Peninsula and maybe a couple others around the state. So that's another thing that I think is we're open to long term. It's one of the problems, just the cost and staffing issues of all these things. I mean, these are I know that people give us their hard-earned dollars, and I appreciate that. If I can make a pitch for why you should be a paid member, if you can, for the Michigan Democratic Party, we have 30 staff throughout the state. We don't hire consultants. We don't buy ads. These are people that actually, we're one of only 4 state parties in the country to have a full-time organizing program in all parts of their state. We're one of only 3 in the country that have a full-time voter protection program that I'll actually get to in a little while. We use no AI. We have a full content director. We have a creative director that does all of our stuff in-house and uses no artificial intelligence. All of that stuff has a lot of cost to it. And so it's important, when you think about what does your $12 go to, it goes to pay somebody who's actually working with county parties. It goes to pay to somebody who's creating the content we put out. It goes to pay for a voter protection year round. Those are all things that are really, really important, that we appreciate every bit of help that we get with that. Yeah.
Caroline Sanders, County Commissioner, and then also about safety.
Oh, I'll read them, yeah. Is there a role to play that kiosks can play to assist with registration, directions, et cetera, during convention moving forward that would also free up some volunteers? Yeah, I think there could. I think that there could be some kiosks and information that's available for registration. I think that the hard part about that is that, the person who's already having a problem on their phone probably still needs a person that a kiosk won't necessarily help with. And I think that lots of times people have questions that can't be answered by something else. But I don't think it's a terrible idea. Was it the second question also from Caroline? Oh, yeah. What is the plan for assisting handicapped Dems, et cetera, at the convention? So, 1, we are looking into motorized scooters where people don't already have them. 2, we are actually reducing lines that are available to people and having a separate line that actually makes it easier. And then everything that we talked about in terms of Braille and working with the hearing impaired as well. Yes?
1 second.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so this is my first convention. I voted in Virginia, I voted in Pennsylvania, and I'm just really curious, why is it done this way where there's a convention and then later there's a primary? Because when you think about time and money, if it was all done in like one primary, it would be more accessible to people. It would be less of a burden on the parties. So I'm just wondering why it is that we do it this way.
The Michigan Constitution. These specific positions are, I'm not telling you this makes sense, by the way. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I just want to be perfectly clear that I don't think I'm in favor of this. I think it gives the party probably some help in fundraising, but it also has huge cost to it. So, and in all honesty, I think more people should be involved in every decision that we make. So I disagree with the people that framed our original Constitution. But our Constitution requires that this is the process that we go for selection of these specific offices. And no one has changed the Constitution to this point. Now, I will also say that we have two things, actually. We have an endorsement convention. We have an endorsement convention. And then we also have the actual nominating convention in August. So that's also weird. Now, why do we do that? We have the big reason we do that is that we have one of the latest primaries in the country. So it doesn't make any sense to for an attorney general candidate or a secretary of state candidate who have to run a statewide campaign to be elected at a convention after the primary 3 weeks later, which is what's required under law, and then try to run a sprint of a campaign in that very, very short window. It is almost impossible. I appreciate the question. No, they get elected. First of all, I would move all the primaries up. But the difference is, the difference that you have to remember is, and we're for that. We've actually worked with the legislature to try to get that bill passed. We believe strongly. We wanted to move up this year. But unfortunately, Republicans blocked that from happening. There's now some interest in moving it earlier this year. But no, because what you're forgetting is the 3 weeks in between primary day and convention. So, and while 3 weeks may not seem to matter, it does kind of matter when you're only talking about a total of 3 months. So basically, our Senate candidates will be elected in the first Tuesday in August. The convention can't be held for another 3 weeks after that to decide, and that's when we actually nominate the lieutenant governor as well, but also affirm all these decisions we make at the endorsement convention. So like the question, I guess, is, should we wait until that late date? Here's what I can tell you is that since we've moved it up, we have had a much better result in all of these elections because of it. Dana Nessel, Jocelyn Benson were both elected through this process, and Republicans waited to the very last minute. In fact, the Republicans have finally figured it out, and they're doing their own endorsement convention because they had such a disadvantage in having to campaign for a very, very short, narrow window. So I think it's I think it's very positive that we do it, actually. And yes, there are costs to it. Don't get me wrong. You should see the AV costs for running this thing. It's very expensive. But I do think that giving candidates enough time to really run a statewide campaign is very, very important. And doing that the third week of August when early voting starts in October, I mean, where you have absentee voting, I mean, you're basically narrowing their window down to literally 5 weeks. This more than quadruples that. So I think it's worth the dollars for sure. Yeah. I didn't even get to the November part yet. All right, let's go.
All right. So thank you for coming.
No problem.
Can you explain, seeing as that we have some first-time convention people, the allocation of state convention delegates?
Yeah, for sure.
Because according to the call for convention, Washtenaw has 314 possible delegates, right?
Yep.
So I guess my question is, if double the amount of individuals show up, does that vote, like, how does that weigh?
Oh, the vote absolutely matters. So let me be very clear about how this works. Proportional voting is a rule in the DNC. What does that mean? What it means is that despite it being harder for some people to vote, those counties are still guaranteed the number of delegates that they're guaranteed. So let me give you an example. Mackinac County is worth five delegates. I'm almost positive I know this from my own chair's race because I got elected in the same process. So 5 delegates are chosen there. If one person shows up from Mackinac County, their vote is worth 5 delegates. If 2 people show up, their vote is worth 2.5 delegates. If 5 people show up, their vote is worth 1 delegate. That's the most easy way to explain it. Same thing applies to Washtenaw. In Washtenaw County, you have, what was the number? 314. Thank you. I couldn't remember that one off the top of my head. If you have 314 people show up, it's worth 1 delegate each vote. If you have 628 show up, it's a half a delegate. If you have 12,000 and something, it's a quarter of a delegate. What it assures is that everybody is part of the process, but also that everybody gets representation. And for those that disagree with it, I've heard from people who say, well, it should just be whoever shows up. Well, then we're going to do the next convention in Mackinac, and you can all explain to me why it would be fair to do it there and not do, and then count their votes more than yours. I agree with you. No, and I want to be clear. Again, I think it's important. I think there is a way to do regional satellites that would be fair to everybody, and we could get to that point. We'd also have to change the DNC rules on this. But it will always be, there will always be some people that have a harder, even if you put it in Mackinac, the drive to Kalkaska is 4 hours. There will always, unless we allow people to all vote in their own county, there will always be people that it's harder for. And so the count is made based on how many delegates you get. And the delegates are based on how many people in your county voted for the Democratic candidate for president last time. So it's not, it is based on a proportion of what the Democratic Party votes are from that area. Yeah.
Larry, I think I'd like to move on to the next subject. We want to talk about November 26th. We have 15 minutes. It's an important subject. So, and you've asked a question. So let's move on to that. That's okay.
I'll be quick. And then I'll take whatever questions are needed. We are going to change our entire coordinated campaign structure. I believe very strongly that the one campaign has promised to be a coordinated campaign, but has failed to be that. It has been too much about the top of the ticket and not about all the races below it. And while I very much want to win the governor's race, and it's really important to me that a Democrat is governor, it's also really important to me that a Democrat is Secretary of State to make sure our elections are protected. And it's also really important to me that a Democrat is Attorney General so that, Dana Nessel has sued Donald Trump more times than I think almost anybody to make sure that our rights are protected. And it's really important to me that we have a Democratic State House and a Democratic State Senate. I mean, let's be real. A governor by themselves is only a goalie. I want to go on offense. I want to make things better for people in this state and get things done. The only way to do that is to make sure we take all of it. And this is the first election in history in Michigan, by the way, where we have an open race for Senate, open race for governor, open race for Attorney General, open race for Secretary of State, and all seats in the State House and State Senate all open at the same time, plus at least 3 congressional seats we can flip. That is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. And so the first thing is we are doing true partnerships with the State House and the State Senate and the congressional campaigns, working together to make sure that we're running a real coordinated campaign that goes from the very top of the ticket all the way down to school board. It's incredibly important that we make that happen. The other thing that we have had a problem with is that we have ignored local party people and local leaders when it comes to where we put offices and who we hire for these campaigns. For far too often, we have hired field people that are not from the area in which they are supposed to work. They have no local knowledge. They are not responsible back to the people that are in that community. It is incredibly important. Oh, by the way, we don't build anything for the future. I mean, I don't want to just win in 26. I mean, 26 probably should be a good Democratic year, but I want to win 26 and 28 and 30 and all the years that are tougher in front of us. So we are going to be hiring people from our own communities. I mean, you look at Detroit last year, the field director was from Philadelphia, and I called somebody in Philadelphia. The field director from Philadelphia was from someplace else, and I can't figure out how that actually makes any sense. Almost every decision that was made from Delaware. And I can tell you that Delaware didn't know how to run a campaign in Washtenaw County. Delaware didn't know how to run a campaign in the UP. And the idea that we have no real, that everything has to be made from a central location doesn't make any sense. We have to run different campaigns in all these places. And so we need people from those communities involved in the decision-making process. And that's something that we're committed to doing. So we are rebranding the one campaign as one team. It's something that I talked about in the chair's race. And it's not just a rebranding for rebranding's sake, but I will say this. If we ask people to come out and show up for the one campaign right now, I'm not sure how many people would actually be willing to be there. So we are rebranding that as one team. We will be working together. We hired Ryan Steele to head this up. He was a national training director for the Biden-Harris campaign. And what's really important about that is that we hired somebody that actually has experience in training people on the ground. We are literally going to college fairs across this state right now, finding people who can be field directors in all of these places that really are from the community and that can be trained to do it. We're going to run the largest training program in Michigan Democratic Party history because we want to make sure that we get this right. So that's what I'm working on for November. But I also want to say, I know that there are concerns about elections and whether it's going to count. I am an optimist by nature. You know, I came into the state Senate. We had 11 members in the state Senate. I became the campaign chair. We had less members than the Wu-Tang Clan, and we could caucus in an elevator. And I, as campaign chair, spent 8 years going from 11 seats to majority for the first time in 40 years here in Michigan. We did that by rethinking everything that we did and how we did it. I know the importance of rethinking everything we do, but if I was in Georgia right now, I'd be much more worried about our elections than I am here in Michigan. Now, why is that? Because I know that we have a Democratic Secretary of State who has sued the Trump administration to make sure that we're going to be protected. We have a Democratic governor that's going to make sure that as well, and we have a Democratic Attorney General that will sue the Trump administration and has and won over and over again. We are also I said at the beginning, one of only 4 states in the country that have a full-time voter protection program. We have a network of volunteers that go to polling places and make sure that people's votes are counted. By the way, we make sure your vote is counted whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, or anything else. We win elections when people vote. They win elections when they prevent people from voting. That's why they're so interested in stopping people from voting in our election. So my commitment to you is that we're going to have a very robust voter protection program moving forward, and we have elected officials that will actually back us up in Michigan. That only continues if we actually win in 2026. So I need you to keep the faith a little bit, because what we've built here is the path forward to defending Donald Trump. I mean, to beating Donald Trump. But I need people. We're going to need a lot of people's blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that happens. And you can go to our website if you want to sign up to be a voter protection volunteer. And make sure that people's votes are counted throughout the state. And now I will take questions on anything. So you had one. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I have 10 minutes left, right?
I'm going to leave it to the discretion of the speaker, and I'll go where I'm directed.
I see Mohammed's hand.
Okay, Mohammed. Oh, Rima.
Sorry.
So my question is, obviously we saw what happened in 2024 for the general. What are we doing to make sure that disenfranchised voters, so there's voter protection, but what are we doing to bring back disenfranchised voters back to the polls? So that's my question.
Yeah, so a couple things. We bled in 79 out of 83 counties last time. And so anybody that tells you that there's one simple reason we lost, I think it's probably difficult, actually. I think that too often people find answers in who they want to blame for these things. But in 79 of 83 counties, we bled votes. And that should tell you that we have a real problem throughout. And so we have several different problems. One is that we've got to remember that we are a working people's party. That is at the soul of who we are. And really, it's not, I want to be perfectly clear. I think sometimes when people say that, they think that I'm walking away from some part of the Democratic Party. And I want to be perfectly clear that's not happening. I won't be a party that doesn't stand up for marginalized people, and I certainly wouldn't be the chair of it. So I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that we need to walk away from anything that we believe or anything else about who we are. But at the reality, there is a situation that if you are at your kitchen table and you're trying to decide whether you can pay for food or rent, if you're trying to decide if you can keep health care because of the skyrocketing costs of the ACA, if you're trying to decide which of your two kids you can send to college, you can't care about other things. And we have been a party. When we had the trifecta, and I know that there are, I know we didn't get everything we wanted done, but I will say this: anybody who's telling you we got nothing done is full of shit. We passed the largest tax cut for working families in history and brought 30,000 kids out of poverty. The largest investment in education in our history. We're the first state in 70 years to undo right to work. We restored prevailing wage. I mean, we were a force for good in the world. The largest investment in affordable housing in our history. And we didn't campaign on that. We didn't talk about what we actually did for people. We've got to be willing to go out and actually make that case to people across the state. And so if you look at the messaging from the Michigan Democratic Party, the number one thing we focus on is affordability. And I think that's really important. The other thing is we got to show up places. The one thing I heard when I ran for chair the most was that people felt abandoned and they weren't listened to and they were ignored. And we cannot take people's votes for granted. And that's true in Dearborn, in Detroit, and Dowagiac. I mean, all different parts of this state. I heard the same thing over and over again. It's why we have a Detroit office now. You know, Michigan Democratic Party hasn't had a Detroit office in more than 20 years. And we have a permanent office in Detroit now. We're working with neighborhoods. We're part of the actual community that's happening there. We've had Iron County and Montmorency counties didn't have state parties for a decade. They now have operating state parties. There's a great article in MLive talking about the work that's going on there. We are making sure at our convention that everyone is welcome, regardless of whether they're voting for one candidate or the other, and that they're actually allowed to be part of the process. It is important to me that we respect people that want to be part of the Democratic Party and they want to vote for us. And then the third thing, and this is the hardest part of it all, and I got 5 minutes left, but I want to be quick about it, but I think it's important. We got to show some grace to people. And I know that's hard, but we're a party that can lean into its empathy. I don't blame this country for Donald Trump. I blame us. We didn't run a good enough campaign. We have work to do. This generation is the slowest generation in American history to buy a house, to buy a car, and start a family. It is imminently worse now than it was for people's parents. It is harder. There's a line in the movie American President that if you don't give people water, they'll drink sand. Trump is sand. He is bullshit and blame. But we got to give people water. And if we're not the party of fair wages, if we're not the party of lowering the cost of health care, if we're not the party of lowering the cost of prescription drugs, if we're not the party of housing affordability, if we're not the party that makes it easier to survive in America, there will never be a party that is fighting for those things. And that's why I do what I do every day. And I hope it's why you do what you do every day too. We are a force for good in the world. When Democrats are in power, good things happen. That doesn't mean we're always right. We got work to do. But we have to remember that in not just when we're in office, but when we're campaigning for that office. Because for far too often, we have made people feel like they're not part of what we do. And so if you are a Republican and you want to come back now, we should have open arms. We should have open arms to bring people back. Here's the thing. Political parties are not about being right. They're about convincing people you are right. There is a difference between those two things. Being right is a religion. That's like a cult that they have over on the other side. We are a party that's actually about convincing people we are right, and we got to go out and do that work. Yes.
I'm going to get emotional about this. My people vote for you guys all the time. Black people vote. You dismiss us because we believe in the Democratic Party. That's why we show up to vote. I was in the civil rights movement with Dr. King, Jesse Jackson, all of them down in Birmingham, Alabama. I know what we went through. We vote for this party. We show up. We got the Voting Rights Act that everybody is enjoying. We did that. This group dismissed us. We didn't do enough campaigning last year. Yes, we did. People had their own reasons for not voting for Kamala. We don't know a lot about her. Oh, she's the black lady. Are we this and we that? We got our issues over here. We got our issue over there. And we aren't going to show up to vote. That's what happened. We caused, the citizens of this country caused what we have now. And we keep making excuses for those who brought this on us. You brought this on us, all of you who couldn't vote for Kamala, with all your different reasons you had, or didn't show up because you didn't want a black woman, or you didn't want a woman at all to be president. You did that. That's what I want to see this party talking about, saying to the people, maybe this time you'll listen to us. Now, how can I make you feel better about your dumb decision you made last year?
If I could say a couple things. First of all, I appreciate that. I mean, first of all, black women have been the backbone of the Michigan Democratic Party and the party in general. And it is 100% true that many people sat out the last election. We lost it in all kinds of places. That's true. And I get your frustration. I understand that. At the same time, I don't want to live in a country like this right now. I don't want to live in a country where we are focused on foreign illegal wars while the average person suffers. I don't want to live in a country where you're safer protesting in other countries than you are here. I get it. Like I get, I mean, when I was running for Congress and Vice President Harris came to visit the district, I was told by consultants that I shouldn't go because she wasn't going to win my district. And I said, you want me not to show up when the vice president comes to town? Like, there was no way that was ever going to happen. So I fully understand. I fully understand your frustration. I cannot walk in anyone's shoes or understand their life or anything else. I can certainly empathize with the situation. I'm not, but I just want to say this, that the stakes are too great for us to focus on our differences between each other. And so I've lost an election. It sucks. I'm glad that we have robust primaries around the state that are actually going to have candidates that different people can do. But I hope at the end of the day, no matter if your candidate wins or loses, you show up the next day and you're ready to go to work. Because at the end of the day, the stakes are too high for any of us. None of us are going to get all that we want. There is no candidate that you'll ever vote for, I hope, unless you're running on the ballot, that you agree with 100%. Right? I hope. I mean, I don't agree with my wife on everything. I mean, there is never going to be an opportunity where, unless you're running yourself, that you get to vote for somebody you agree with 100%. And if you do, you're in a cult. That's what the Republican Party is now. We are a big tent of many different people and many different ideas. But I'll tell you one thing that unites us. This country right now is broken. Who we are is at threat. Our democracy, the basic ability to survive, the protection of who we are is at risk. And I don't care who wins the primary. I'm voting for a Democrat. Because that may be blue no matter who, but I want to be clear about that. I get mad, just as mad when people say, oh, well, Mandami won the primary, so I'm not going to vote for him from the other side either. We are in a battle for the soul and our lives of this country. You're willing to say you're a Democrat and stand up and fight, I'm with you. So, I get the challenges that we have, but I can promise you that I wake up every morning and give my blood, sweat, and tears to try to make this party better. Try to make sure that we're actually working together to actually take this country back. And I know you give your blood, sweat, and tears as well. But I can promise you that you have somebody in Lansing at the party offices who puts their entire heart and soul in this. And we are the team that gets it done together. Everyone out there is waiting for the cavalry to come. I need you to understand that we are the cavalry. Let's go win.
Thank you. We very much appreciate you coming and talking to us in person. And now, most importantly, there is more coffee.
Thank you, Curtis. Thank you, Eli. Thank you for all the program leaders out there. I want to say that having been chair for a little while, man, hearing Curtis talk about how he's going to make the convention easier is music to my ears. Also, how we're going to change the one campaign to what's it going to be called again? One team. One team. This is really exciting because they have run roughshod over county parties and local expertise. So that's fantastic. If you're a first-time convention goer or it's been a minute, we're going to walk all the way through a user's guide to the convention, both March 22nd, our county convention, and also the April 19th convention, April 18 and 19 convention. Tomorrow, 4 o'clock, and we'll feed you pizza. And just make it fun. There's also going to be some resistance singing. So everybody's welcome. We will make it easy for you too. Thank you, Eli. Thank you, all of you, all the candidates. Thanks for all of you to come out today and learn how to save our country together. And Cheryl, thank you.